When we think of history, we often associate it with certain people or figures from the past who had such a huge influence during the era they lived in that we remember their lives and stories even to this day. So in honor of some of the most influential, powerful and ambitious individuals throughout history, I have created this list on my recommendations for the top 10 biographical movies that I think most viewers of this channel may not have seen yet. But before we begin, don't forget, if you love anything to do with historical movies and historical TV shows, then subscribe to my channel History Spark. At number 10, it is The Messenger, the story of Joan of Arc, which depicts the story of the legendary French war heroine and religious martyr who inspired and led troops during the 100 Years' War. This film tells of how at a young age Joan of Arc begins to have visions which she believes are from God, and she uses these visions to validate the fact that she needs to assist in the 100-Year War and ensure that France is able to defeat the English in the upcoming battles. Mila Jovovich is an amazing actor and does such a fantastic job in her role that I don't think anyone else could ever portray Joan of Arc again without drawing criticism against Mila's portrayal. The battle scenes here are serviceable and the plot is decent with some great acting to follow as well. This may not be the best medieval or biographical film ever created, but it is definitely a film that more people need to watch and get on their radar, as it is truly a very unique and interesting film. At number 9, it is Belle, which is a biographical film about the life of Dido Belle, an illegitimate mixed-race daughter of Sir John Lindsay, a naval officer who was stationed in the West Indies. And this movie tells the story of her life from when she is found living in poverty by her father to her involvement in the legal case of the Zong massacre, in which slaves were thrown overboard from a slave ship so the owner could claim losses from his insurance company. Belle is a very unique film and it is very well acted as well. It has a fascinating plot which is a great mix of a historical, legal and social drama, and some great costume design as well. This movie is not perfect and it may be a bit slower paced than some people might like, but if you have a Hulu subscription and want to see a biographical film about a very little known historical figure, then Belle is my recommendation for you. At number 8, it is Amadeus, the critically acclaimed movie that won 8 Oscars and over 40 awards in total. This movie focuses on the rivalry between Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and Antonio Salieri, who was also an accomplished composer of music in his own right, but he is nowhere near as gifted as Mozart is, and this leads to feelings of jealousy and envy of why a non-religious and vulgar man such as Mozart will be more gifted and favored by God than him. These feelings eventually consume Antonio Salieri, and what follows is a thrilling and engaging biographical tale of not only Mozart's life but also the deteriorating state of Antonio Salieri's mental health. Amadeus has brilliant acting by the entire cast, some great cinematography that holds up well even to this day, a great Mozart-inspired soundtrack, and a story filled with lots of plot twists and surprises. There really isn't anything to not like about Amadeus, so be sure to check it out as soon as you get a chance. At number 7, it is Medieval, a film from the Czech Republic based on the legendary Hussite commander John Žižka, one of the most successful military leaders of all time, having never lost a battle in which he was the commander of his forces, and this movie tells the story of his rebellion against Henry III of Rosenborg. Medieval does a great job of bringing his story to life, and it has some decent acting by most of the cast, with Michael Caine and Ben Foster being the two standouts for me. There's a lot to like about Medieval, but it is a very rapid-paced film with a lot of events trying to be told in a short time frame, which does hurt the quality of the film overall. But if you're looking for a movie which has a great central character using some really extraordinary military strategies to defeat larger forces, then Medieval is the perfect film for you. At number 6, it is Gandhi, the critically acclaimed epic biographical drama that depicts the extraordinary life of Mahatma Gandhi, from his defining moment of being thrown off a South African train in 1893 to his tragic assassination in 1948, chronicling his transformation from a young lawyer to the spiritual leader who would liberate India through a movement of non-violent resistance and peaceful protest. Ben Kingsley does a fantastic job of portraying Gandhi, who single-handedly keeps you glued to your screen with his performance. This epic film has brilliant cinematography that captures the sweeping scope of India's independence movement perfectly. and it is further benefited by a magnificent musical score which greatly enhances the emotional scenes within the movie. To be honest, there really isn't much to critique about Gandhi except that this movie does struggle with pacing a bit, as it's trying to cover over 50 years of Gandhi's life in a very short time period, which is a very difficult feat. But overall, this biographical film does a great job of bringing Gandhi's story to the big screen, and I highly recommend it to all viewers of this channel. At number 5 is The Last Emperor, which tells the story of Pui, the last emperor of China who would rule from the age of 2 to 6. And this fascinating film tells the story of this child emperor who would then be imprisoned and removed from power by the Chinese Communist Party and his subsequent political rehabilitation. The Last Emperor is the winner of 9 Oscar awards, and it is a historical film which has been mostly forgotten by the majority of mainstream audiences, and this movie does have some brilliant acting, beautiful cinematography, and some very realistic set pieces and costume design as well. If you have some prior knowledge of the events, then this movie will be even more enjoyable. But if you're looking for a unique and engaging look at Chinese history, then The Last Emperor is the film for you. The 4th spot on this list goes to Mongol, a biographical film that came out in 2007, which magnificently tells the story of Genghis Khan from his childhood to his rise to becoming the first warlord that finally unites all the Mongol factions into one deadly army. This movie does a great job of slowly building the story of Genghis Khan and his family, and it spends a surprisingly long amount of time delving into his troubled childhood and the huge number of obstacles and struggles he would have to endure before even becoming a minor warlord in Mongolia. Mongol has great acting, especially by Todanobu Asano as Temujin being the standout performance for me. The 3rd act is very rushed and it depicts Temujin's rise to power a bit too quickly. But other than this critique, Mongol is the first movie you should watch if you want to learn more about Mongol history and the reign of Genghis Khan in general. At number 3, it is El Cid, the 1961 classic epic historical film which gives a depiction of the Castilian warlord Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar. El Cid is a classic film which gets a lot of things right, especially in terms of developing the storyline and throwing in lots of fascinating plot twists. The acting is great and the characters are believable and relatable as well. What is not so amazing about this film though is the runtime, and with the short attention span of many people today, this might seem like a never-ending film, as this is not a film that tries to dazzle you with a lot of action and spectacle. It is just a purely entertaining historical drama which will be the perfect choice for any dedicated historical lover, but not for casual viewers. At number 2, it is The Promised Land, a Danish historical drama which tells the story of Ludwig Khaled, who heads into the uninhabitable lands of Jutland during the 1700s to start a new life and create a future filled with riches, glory, and honor, or accept that the wild terrain, bandits, and wild beasts in the land will get the better of him. The Promised Land stars Mads Mikkelsen, and as always, he is stellar in this film. And The Promised Land has a plot that is both fascinating and well paced, and you will find yourself engrossed into this historical epic in a way that only the best of films can truly engage you. This movie is a bit slower paced than many people may have initially expected, but I think it tells the story perfectly, and I can't recommend The Promised Land highly enough to any viewer of this channel, and it is definitely a biographical film that has been largely overlooked. And the top spot on this list goes to Downfall, which explores the final days of Adolf Hitler's life stuck in his Berlin bunker, and the film is told primarily through the viewpoint of Gertrude Traudl Jung, the primary secretary for Adolf Hitler during this time period. I must admit that the premise of this film was very interesting, and the movie's attention to historical accuracy is one of the key reasons that I rate this film so highly. Downfall shines for its ability to bring something new to the story of Hitler and his last days that audiences would most likely not have seen before, as we see firsthand the deteriorating state of Hitler's mind and everything he held so dear crumbling around him. Downfall is definitely a movie that would encourage any fan of historical or war movies to add to their Netflix watch list as soon as possible, as it is probably the most unique and underrated World War II movie and biographical film that I have ever seen. So let me know in the comments down below if you agree with my recommendations of 10 little known biographical films that most audiences will probably enjoy. and if there are any other great biographical movies that you think I should watch as well. And as always, if you want to stay up to date with everything to do with historical movies and historical TV shows, then subscribe to my channel History Spark, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.